It's Michael Ogechi Abbey with Enterprise Express Tax Service. Today I'm going to talk about the difference between the different 1099 tax forms. So typically when you're issued with a 1099, it means that you've been employed at some point as a self-employed contractor, or in some cases you could be a independent business person and just like an Uber driver, for instance, or someone who works for a company that is not taking taxes out. So they're not issuing you with a W-2, but rather you and them have agreed that you will be issued with a 1099. Now, in that case, the IRS considers you to be a self-employed or rather an independent contractor. And so you're treated just like you would a regular business person would be. Now, you do not have to have an LLC or an incorporated company to receive a 1099. You could be an independent person or a sole proprietor and still receive a 1099. Now, let's talk about the different types of 1099s. There's a 1099 miscellaneous. This is typically issued most times when it's just a regular independent contractor position, and you will be issued with a 1099 miscellaneous. I have a client of mine, for instance, who occasionally does some work for their church where they clean up the church every other Sunday, and the church pays them with a 1099 miscellaneous. However, back in 2021, I believe, so between 2020 and 2021, the IRS came up with a different type of form called a 1099 NEC. This sort of took over from the 1099 miscellaneous form, and it was more focused on a business type relationship. When you're working for someone, and it's more of a business relationship, and so they pay you with a 1099 NEC. Um, and so typically over the last couple of years, what's become more common and more popular is people receiving the 1099 NEC. The 1099 miscellaneous is still out there in circulation, but we don't really see it as much. What we really see now more often is the 1099 NEC. There's another 1099 that's out more recently, and this is called the 1099 DA. DA stands for digital assets. The reason why the IRS decided to come up with the DA form is that, for a while now, assets like cryptocurrency and Bitcoin, there's been some sort of a difficulty in how to classify them. And the IRS has sort of, danced around this a little bit. And it looks like what they've decided to do is come up with a different type of form called the digital assets. Um, in more recent versions of the 1040 being the tax form that individuals filed, there is a question there that asks whether you have had any trading, cryptocurrency, digital assets trading, and you're supposed to answer yes or no. The IRS pretty much just asked that for you to self-declare if you've had that. Well, with the 1099 DA digital assets form, brokers like Coinbase, for instance, are now going to be required to report whatever income or whatever transactions or broker transactions that were made on an individual's behalf. That will now be reported to the IRS. And the duplicate form will also be sent to you, the taxpayer, and you will be required to also use that 1099 DA that's been sent to you and complete your most recent tax return. And so what will happen, of course, is the IRS, once they receive your copy, they'll compare it with their copy for accuracy, and then that's how that's pretty much how that will be. The IRS is going to ensure that you have filed your return properly with that 1099 digital assets form. So it's a new one, and I guess we'll be getting used to it. We've been told that most of those forms are supposed to be sent out by February the 17th. So it's very likely that you or most taxpayers have not yet received their 1099 DA forms. So that's something to look out for, especially if you're someone who files your tax returns fairly early. You may find out that at a later stage you will get a copy of the 1099 digital assets form. What I would suggest in that case is talk to your tax preparer, your CPA, or your accountant. Let them know that you received this form. It just came in, even though you filed your taxes, and they can now determine if adding whatever amounts or whatever information is on that form, whether it would have or will impact your taxes. If it does, then you're probably going to have to do an amended return, which is a 1040X. Um, so it's not necessarily a big deal, but you definitely need to report it if you get one of those forms and it has, any significant information that could make a difference on your tax return. So just going over the different 1099s, there's one more I'd like to talk about as well, which is a 1099K. Typically, that again is a form that's issued, but I see more of the 1099Ks with, let's say you have an account with, say, Square. Square is a company, it's a third-party financial services company through which people make credit card payments, for instance. Okay. And what Square does is at the end of the tax year, they'll send you a 1099K, which details the monthly transactions that you've had with Square over the prior tax year. And you will now use the 1099K to file your most current tax year return. It's the same with Uber and Lyft. Okay, it's a detailed monthly outline of what's occurred over the prior tax year, just showing income that was made on a monthly basis. And it's called a 1099K. It is typically filed within your 1040 tax return on the Schedule C form. The Schedule C form is a form that's used to detail your self-employed earnings, your independent contractor earnings, and the 1099s in this case are embedded within the Schedule C to show the income. And so the 1099K is again another important variant of the 1099 series. And definitely once you receive that, you do need to provide it to your tax accountant and make sure that it's filed correctly with the accurate information. Always remember that all these forms have copies sent to the IRS. And so whatever's reported on your tax return has to show exactly what's on the filing system with the IRS so that there's no discrepancy. You can be hit with accuracy related penalties if you do not report the information accurately as as the IRS has that information. Okay, so just a quick review of the 1099 series. I do have a different video that just talks about the 1099 as it refers to the Uber, the Lyft, and the ride sharing tax business. And that's on a different video. If you look through my videos, you see that. This video is just talking about the different types of the 1099s and how they shake out, and also, of course, introducing the 1099 DA digital assets one. Well, wishing everybody a great 2026 tax season. My name is Michael Ogechi Abbey. I am the owner and founder of Enterprise Express Tax Service, and I look forward to serving you. Thanks. Bye.